Good evening. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting of January 13th, 2026 in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 1. These proceedings will be videotaped and rebroadcasted by Area 58 TV. If we could all please stand for the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We have a minor modification of an A&R to the approved lot lines of an application concerning Assessors Map 122-2 and 5-1 located at Mayflower Road, Carver, Mass. In the Residential Agricultural Zoning District. This item has been removed from the agenda at the request of the applicant. He will be resubmitting, so we won't be hearing on this tonight. The next item on the agenda will be discussion on the MBTA zoning bylaw discussion with the Barrett Group, whom we have here with us this evening, Judy Barrett, and forgive me,
Lily. Carver.
Lily, thank you. So there have been some discussions regarding some options that are available to us that we had previously discussed areas. Yes, Valerie?
If I may, I just wanted to mention that we were able to get a second technical assistance grant. We'd mentioned it in one of the previous planning board meetings, and so we're pleased to be able to re-engage with the Barrett Group to talk about the MBTA districts. And this is our first meeting with them since a long time ago, and so we're excited that they're here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your assistance. You know, we had a discussion about the MBTA zoning bylaw and also a further discussion about the 40R and whether or not that would benefit us. I've asked someone to attend the meeting tonight, and I would like him to come up and speak, invite him to come up and speak, Mr. Alan Germain, because he was instrumental in having the discussion with the town administrator that we had, you know, a conversation about the 40R. So if you wouldn't mind if we could allow him to speak and then, you know, go over to the MBTA and the possibility of a 40R?
Sure, that's totally fine.
That would be fine? Mr. Germain?
Yes, I'll sign in. Alan Germain, 24 Pine Street. This all started after town meeting when, thank God, the town voted no on the MBTA mandate, overwhelmingly. And it got me to thinking, because eventually, inevitably, we're going to have to do something. So, like in your personal lives, if you decide to go on vacation, you come up with an idea, and you go to your better half, and you say, hey, what do you think about this? And they say, this is a really stupid idea. Or they say, that's a great idea. Same whether you're going to paint your house a different color, buy a new car. You know, it's an idea. Everything that happens is an idea. So that being said, I went to Art Borden because I know that his client owns the property behind Noria. And I simply asked Art, his client was not treated very well by this board when he came here. But I asked Art, is this client going to build something? Simple question. And he said, absolutely. With or without the planning board's blessings, which means, you know, whatever it means. So I said, would he entertain a discussion to turn that area behind Noria into a 40R project, which is combination residential and commercial. Town has a lot of leeway in that. We'd have to have town meeting approve a zoning area for that. But it can be a win-win for everybody because there's a lot of grant money that comes along with it. And I reached out, and if I could pass this out.
If you could hand it over here, please.
Excuse me?
Hand it to our town planner, please.
I can't give it to you?
No, that would be
Yeah, well, I'm going to
inappropriate.
give it to you. Knock it off, Connie, will you? I'm trying to give you an idea.
Thank you.
God almighty, you'll never change. Read it, don't read it, I don't care what you do with it.
Thank you, Mr. Duran.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Alan, do you have an extra one?
Bob,
Me?
you didn't get one?
No.
Oh, I apologize.
Apology accepted. Thank you.
Anyway, that's an email from Kelly Dooner's office, because I reached out to her, and this is what I got back. And there's a little wording in there that talks about a 40S. A 40S is awesome, because a 40S, and our planner should certainly know this, a 40S means that the state will reimburse that project for the net cost of the students going to the school system. Now, the big problem we have with housing in this town is what's it going to do with our infrastructure? Schools, public safety, so on and so forth. God forbid if it becomes a 40B, then we get nothing except the overall cost. So Art reached out to his client. His client said, this is a great idea. I'd love to do that. I then got a hold of the chair, and I got a hold of Glenn Cannon. Because again, we're just playing with an idea here. And I invited the chair and Glenn to a meeting with Art Borden, I was there, and the developer. Real nice guy. He doesn't sell the paper. He doesn't sell the properties. He builds it. He keeps it. And my personal opinion is I was taken away by this guy. He wants to work with the town. Now, there's an alternative. I think what we need to get really understood here is that something is going behind Noria. So once you get past all of the permits and the what are you building and what kind of control are we going to have on it, once you get past all of that, you have to realize something's going there. So this really started with Middleborough voting no on the MBTA Communities Act, and then them creating a 40R district, and the state deeming Middleborough in compliance without ever accepting it. And that's the key. We can be found in compliance with MBTA if that is the end result, but after never having accepted the MBTA, we're not subject to their whims 5 years from now when they decide they made a mistake and here's new legislation. Because it was never accepted. We're not married to it. Rochester's trying to do the exact same thing. I don't know where they are in that process. Glenn's familiar with it because they were trying to do it when he was there. And perhaps Valerie, is it? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Perhaps Valerie would know of other towns that have tried to do it. Is it successful? I don't know. Is it worth exploring? Absolutely. It's 30 acres of land behind Noria. He'll put in his own well. He has no problem doing that. His own water treatment system. He'll put in his own sewer system. And he'll petition Middleborough to see if he can buy water. And Middleborough is, provided they have enough water to service their own, and this is a quote, we're in the business of selling water. So if his needs are such that Middleborough can meet them, then Middleborough will connect him. Just like Middleborough approved and is willing to connect the car wash. Now that didn't happen because there was intervention from the North Carver Water District. But the owner was okay with it, and Middleborough was okay with it, but the North Carver Water District didn't like the fee. So this guy's still working on a well. But so this is what's down the road in the future. If there were to be, and an initial drawing shows 240 units plus a L-shaped commercial structure similar to Cornerstone's Plaza, which would be the first thing you'd see, and then the housing behind it. When you think about where it's located and the logistics of it, it's on the other side of 44. So my guess would be, unless someone's going to Wareham, they're going to get on 44. If they're going down the Cape, or if they're going shopping, they'll go to Shaw's, they'll go to CVS. You're not going to get this massive influx of traffic that we would have had, God forbid something happened with West Street, that you'd have up there, because it's right on the highway. What better place for it if we have to put up something like that? And the inevitability of it is something is going to eventually be built in this town. We've got 80 acres sitting down the street, and who knows what's going to happen with that. And there's a lot of other land that's available too. So, you know, the other thing with 40R is 20% of those units have to be deemed affordable. And that would help us with our inventory to get us up to the 10 or whatever that magic number is for affordability. So this could check off a ton of boxes. Please correct me, ladies, if I'm wrong in any of this conversation. That could check off a ton of boxes. And we'd have a developer that's willing to work with us and we could work with then a commercial corner as well as the housing. I have real hard time understanding the downside of it all. But like I said, it's up to you guys. This has to be something that the planning board puts through for a zoning change. The select board has to be in agreement with it. They have not been involved to this point. This is nothing more than an idea. That's all this is right now. It's just a thought that's had some limited discussion. And we thought it was a good idea, speaking with Mary, we thought it was a good idea now to bring it to everybody because, you know, time is of the essence. So, and I know that Costa would like to get started sooner than later. He's had that property for paying taxes on it for 5 or 6 years. He's been paying taxes on that property. So, you know, better that he should want to work with the town and have this be a win-win for everyone than to have him take an adversarial role like what happened in Plimpton, where the planning board got mean and nasty and there's 60 40B units going in, and all that guy wanted to do was put a material yard in there and recycle stuff in an industrial zone district. So now Plimpton is sitting back saying, what are we going to do about these 60 units? Well, there's nothing they can do about the 60 units because he went to the state.
Right.
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen behind Noria, but that's always an option. And, you know, we've seen that come up with Edaville and the possibility of, the only reason that Edaville didn't go through is because the numbers didn't work. They wanted a friendly 40B at 346 units. Because when you did all the math, the numbers didn't work.
Right.
The state would have given him 200, but you couldn't make the numbers work for 200 units.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Germain. We did discuss that briefly with Judy and her group, and I think that she may have some information about that tonight, together with the other properties that we had initially discussed on the MBTA matter. So I just wanted to have him explain where this came from.
Yeah, and I also just, Madam Chair, if I may, one more
Sure.
thing. I don't want anyone thinking that this is a backroom deal or anything. There's been no assumptions made. There's been none of this made. This has been nothing more than a casual discussion between me and a friend of mine. Art Borden is a dear friend of mine. And just bouncing around some ideas, and then it kind of went from there to the next step. So I didn't ever think it was appropriate to just have this idea come up before the planning board and say, hey, what do you think about this? Not having any facts, figures, numbers, anything to go on. So there has been no wink, wink, we can get this done for you. There's been none of that, because I don't believe in that. This should be transparent. And all I've done now is bring the cart and the horse kind of together. And now it's entirely up to this board where it goes from here. You can sit back and say, we don't want to even consider it, and then he'll take the next step, whatever that might be. But I do know for a fact something is going to be built behind Noria.
I think we know that because he came in front of us, and I probably wasn't very pleasant to him. And he made it quite clear that he wanted to build there. And I asked him, you know,
And he's
respectfully,
built,
to read the room.
he's
And-
built down the Cape, he's built north of Boston, and every single thing he builds, he keeps. He doesn't sell any of it. He's not looking to get approvals and sell the paper, which I think is what was going to happen at Edaville. What he buys, he keeps. This is him and his brother, and it's the young guys, and they're in this for the long haul. This is for his kids, according to what he said, so.
Well, we do know he is going to build there, and in a perfect world, it would be nice if we could kind of kill two birds with one stone. I don't
Well, I'd
know
much
if that's
rather have the-
possible, but that's what Judy can provide information on.
I'd much rather the devil I know than the one I don't. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Please do.
Alan, that was awesome.
So it's nice to see everyone again.
Likewise, thank you.
We're not your enemy. We're really not your enemy. We're here to try to help. Let me shed a little light, if I can, on Chapter 40R and the MBTA Communities Law, so you understand how these things come together and where they don't. I've worked on 2 Chapter 40R districts, including the one in Rochester, so I'm pretty familiar with the law. It is different from the MBTA Communities Act in a couple of ways. One, you choose to apply to the state for approval of a 40R district. It requires prior state approval before the zoning goes to town meeting. If you pass the zoning to enable development under the Chapter 40R law, the town receives an initial payment. It's called a zoning incentive payment, just for passing the zoning. And then for each dwelling unit that's built in the district that would not have been built without the 40R legislation, you received what's called a bonus payment. It's a $3,000 per building permit. For each building permit for a unit that couldn't have been built without the 40R, you receive an additional payment. So those are the kind of big financial incentives to think about with 40R. The law was passed in 2004. The specific intent was to encourage communities to create higher density multifamily housing. There are 3 tiers of housing types that are allowed under Chapter 40R: single family, townhouse style, sort of attached units, and multifamily. And the density requirements differ by housing type. So an example of a difference between 40R and the MBTA Communities Law is that in a multifamily use, which you really have to include under 40R, the minimum density is 20 units an acre, whereas under MBTA Communities, it's 15 units an acre. So if you can arrive at a plan for a Chapter 40R district that checks all the boxes, you will at least be able to meet the density requirement for MBTA Communities. So there is a potential to make it work. It doesn't always work. When we worked with Rockland on their MBTA community zoning, they wanted to put their MBTA district in their downtown area because they already had a Chapter 40R district there, and it didn't work. So the laws are different in the way they measure density and the land area that they consider developable for purposes of figuring out, can you build the number of units that you say you're going to build? And I just want you to know it sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. There's a lot of mythology about what happened in Middleborough, and I just need to get this on the table. Middleborough was able to satisfy the requirements of the MBTA Communities Law. They did have to comply. They complied by adding land to their 40R district, which already existed. They already had a 40R district in Middleborough. They wanted to use that to meet the requirements of the MBTA Communities Law. They were almost there. But the MBTA Communities Law in Middleborough, because they're a train station town, required a minimum land area that was like 50 acres. They weren't quite there. So the state said, look, if you add land to your 40R district, you can probably get to something that complies with the MBTA Communities Law, and now you've got, your 40R district, but you also are meeting the requirements of the MBTA Communities Law, and that's what happened in Middleborough. So they still did have to comply. They agreed to comply. They did it by changing their 40R district. And we do have a few communities in Massachusetts that have met the MBTA Communities Law by being able to submit a district that already existed. That's not unheard of. It's not common, but it's happened. And Middleborough chose to say, look, we already have this 40R district that we like. Can we just modify it? And the Commonwealth said, sure, if you can make it work for both, that's fine. So that's just a little background about Middleborough. The laws are a little bit different. I did kind of have sort of a conversation with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities a while back when we were working with Rockland, just to sort of understand how these two programs come together. So we kind of understand this. I think that if you want to go the Chapter 40R route, I think it's fine. We would need to analyze the property both for MBTA compliance and 40R, and it's done differently. So nothing in state government is the same, right? They measure density differently. It's just a little bit more complicated than you probably even want to know about. But we would have to look at both and say, can we make this site work for both from a density calculation standpoint? And if we can, then you would need to decide, gee, do we want to do this 40R approach? And if you do, then we would need to have a conversation, probably with Val, if you're still here, I hope, Mary, and anybody else you wanted, with the state office that handles 40R, because it's different people. And then we would have to also coordinate with the MBTA communities folks. So there's a little more work involved, but if that's what you want to do, it's fine. I just think the first step is for us to determine, can we actually meet the requirements of both? The other thing I want to just make clear about 40S was referred to earlier. We have only one town in Massachusetts that's getting a subsidy under Chapter 40S. There is no guarantee that you are going to get additional state aid. The way it works is more complicated than you want to know, but just trust me on this. Most towns with a 40R district have gotten no aid under Chapter 40S. The only thing about Chapter 40S is that if, for some reason, the property tax revenue generated by the 40R development does not generate enough money to meet the per pupil cost of children living in the development based on the average per pupil cost for the state, not yours, but the average for the state. If that project's not generating that much revenue, then you would be eligible for a subsidy, and the Department of Revenue handles that. But at the most, we've only had 3 towns qualify for it, and at this point, it's only 1, and it's Lakeville. And the issue there is, I don't know if you're familiar with the 40R in Lakeville, but that happened to be built under a low-income housing tax credits program. So, there's reasons why that project doesn't quite generate the revenue needed to meet the state average for the students who live there. But I just don't want anybody going into this thinking there's going to be a windfall under 40R, because it's just not what happens. But the advantage is you can sort of take the position of, we're doing this because we want to. We want to do a 40R. And if we can make that work and that also satisfies 3A, then what have we lost?
I think
up
it's
to
great
you.
that we have you on board, that you understand all of these ins and outs already heading into it. That makes it a lot cleaner in terms of figuring out the modeling and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, the modeling is different. So we would have to be able to get the most current version of the 40R model. It's another Excel model. I don't want to bore you with all this, but we have to get that model and take a look at it, and then we can tell you.
I had asked you when we had that call, if this particular property, if the town chose to go with a 40R, and if we fell a little short with your compliance model, as you've referred to before with the MBTA, would we then be able to create an overlay district to satisfy any shortfall? Would they work together, or do they have to be 2 separate animals?
I think we want to try to make them work together if we can.
Okay.
I would think that'd be a lot easier for you folks and your voters to understand. It's like, here's this zoning overlay, and gosh golly gee, it meets both requirements. So now we don't have to have an argument anymore about the MBTA communities law, and we get this 40R district that's actually going to generate some financial benefits for the town, but also gives you a district you've got. The people are going to feel like they have a little more control over.
Right.
The downside is that you still have to explain to your residents that the density requirement is higher. So
Well,
just understand that.
I know, but given the fact that this gentleman came before us 2 times, I found out that he was discussing things with the town planner previous. He's definitely is intending on building there.
Sure.
And I'm a little concerned as to what might go there if we can't make something work. And none of us, and me especially, want anything to do with the MBTA being forced down our throats by the state. But if we could check a box, and if this developer is willing to work with us and we can work with him, then it almost seems like a win-win for everyone.
Could
because
be.
we could gain some commercial business, get some commercial tax revenue in the town, which we desperately need. And unfortunately, there would be housing. But I think that the housing that we could possibly be looking at with a 40R, if we chose to do so, would be less than what he could do.
Right. So there's some additional work that's going to need to be done on the 40R side. They're going to require some type of at least a sort of a sketch plan or a representation of what a proponent might want to build, because that's going to form the basis for what gets plugged into their spreadsheet
Understood.
model.
Yeah.
And I will also say, because I don't know the property you're referring to, the Chapter 40R has a specific mission. It is so-called smart growth, so the location really matters. With MBTA communities, not so much. Some communities have put their MBTA communities district in a place where they actually wanted to see some housing happen, others have not. But under 40R, you don't get an approval just because you've got a project that might want to go forward. They're going to really look at the location, what it's related to, how it relates to your master plan, how it relates to your other zoning. In other words, you have to sort of be able to make a case for it is so-called smart growth. And they've turned some down. So I just wanted everybody to understand that it's a higher bar that has to be met. And I'm not saying that to discourage you, I just want you to understand.
I just, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just have a couple of quick questions. So
Sure.
it's 20 units per acre for the 40R.
For multifamily, yes.
And we can overlay that on top of the MBTA. There shouldn't be any issue with that.
That is what Middleborough did. They were able to say, here's our 40R, we've added land to it, now we meet both MBTA requirements and 40R, and everything's fine.
Okay. 40R has a higher percentage of affordable housing, 20%.
Yes, they do.
It's not limited to 20%.
I mean, it's not limited to 10%.
No, I'm saying it. It says in here, Mr. Germain's a minimum of 20%.
The state will not approve more than 20%.
Okay, so it has to be.
It's 20. It's going to be 20%.
It
Okay.
becomes infeasible at a certain percentage, it just becomes, the project won't
Yeah.
work.
So just so you know, the statute 40R actually refers to 20%. In the old days, we had some 40R districts that were created with a 25% minimum, but they're not approving those anymore.
Okay. And it says multifamily or mixed-use development. Can it be limited to mixed use or must it be both?
It would be mixed use, including multifamily.
So, I mean, preferably what the town would like, because the area we're talking about currently is a commercial area, and the town has very, very little of that. We would prefer a mixed use with commercial and residential development in an area such as that. But I suppose that's dealer's choice. Whoever comes forward can say, I'm not building commercial, I'm just building multifamily.
That is, yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Mr. Jermaine?
Just to clarify, make it easy for
Can
Bonnie.
you please come to the microphone for the audience at home?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Judy.
That's
I'm
okay.
Just to
actually quite
clarify,
familiar with 40R, but thank you.
I'm sure you are. The proposed plan is, the plot is 30 acres. 15 of it is buildable. 15 of it is considered kind of wet. On the 15 that is buildable, the proposal is, from what I've seen for the plan so far, is 240 residential, and I think there's 6 or 8 commercial, but that's in an L-shaped fashion, like I said, similar to Cornerstone's. So it certainly meets the minimum standard for density.
And that's fine. I think what the Commonwealth's going to want to see is some multifamily units above the commercial, as opposed to a complete separation.
Oh, Well, then there would be more than 240 units there.
Yeah, well, sometimes developers don't want to do those, so I'm just being honest with people. I mean, it's a smart growth law, and so the scenario they're going to want to see is freestanding multifamily is fine, but on the commercial piece, they're going to want to see housing above.
Huh. I think that even Costa suggested that. I think we talked him out of it and said, no, commercial should be, and then
Yeah.
housing.
Right.
So he's willing to do, again, we have a very proactive developer who's chomping at the bit to work with the town, not against the town. So I think that we should do everything we possibly can. I think the location is perfect. It's right off the highway. It's in the shopping center area of Carver with gas stations, CVS, Shaw's Market, Tractor Supply, Aubuchon Hardware, and Route 44.
And higher densities are going to help those retail
Sure.
markets.
It's going to help them a lot, because where they're going to go shopping? They're going to go to Shaw's.
The other thing I want you to all know about 40R, and I don't mean to do this piecemeal, it's just things come to me as we're sitting here talking. When you're applying to the MBTA communities folks for approval under 3A, they're not requiring you to show that you have adequate utilities to support development. The 40R people will. So they're going to want to know, how are you providing water and wastewater to this project? So I'm telling you this because there's a higher burden on the town to meet in order to get 40R approval. You don't just get it. And I think that's a conversation that you and Mary or someone from the town needs to have with Mass Housing Partnership, because right now our scope does not include,
Okay.
because we were just, the program we're working with you under is to get 3A zoning passed. So I'm more than happy to help you with 40R, but I just think needs to be a conversation as to who's going to do that extra work. And if you want us to do it, which is fine, because I've done 2 of them, but if you want us or someone else, somebody's going to need to pay for it. So we can have that conversation offline. I'm not trying to be a mercenary, I'm just trying to be honest with you. I know what's involved.
All right, so is the town on the hook for the necessary infrastructure, water and sewer in regards to 40R?
No, you're not, but you are on the hook to show that it can be done.
Okay.
And the plan that Art has drawn up has shown that this developer will put in his own public water supply well. He'll treat the water, the wastewater is already delineated. In fact, if you get a hold of Art and maybe invite him and Costa into, your next meeting's pretty jammed, but maybe the one after that, they'll bring in the plan. He's got it drawn up, so you can see exactly what it looks like. And this abuts town of Carver conservation land, because there was actually some very early discussion about possibly swapping some land with Carver, would give him some more backyard. And then, because he owns property going down 58 toward Plimpton, and he would give some of that land to Carver and do a land swap. But that's in a conservation restriction up there, so I think that'd be difficult to do. But that's all conservation behind there. So I really think it checks off 99% of the boxes. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of legwork, Judy. I have no doubt that there's going to be a lot of legwork involved. But I think it's a much better proposal than trying to just get a MBTA community rammed in, which I honestly and truly think that based on the last town meeting, will spectacularly fail again. I just don't see it happening. So that's just my personal take, but I'm the guy who stood in the front of the room and watched everybody's face, and that was going down the toilet before we even called that question. So.
I would agree with that.
Well, I'm happy to pick up the phone and call Mass Housing Partnership and see what could be worked out, whether
Yeah.
it could become from the other side. It's 2 different programs.
Yeah, exactly. And I have tried not to push that because I didn't want to get out in front of anybody on this.
Yeah.
But I just think we just need to cover that base.
Yeah.
It's just like there's a whole application that has to be prepared, and the
ready.
modeling. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I've been through this, so
Yeah.
just trying to tell you.
Is there any reason this wouldn't work on the West Street property as well?
So all I'm going to say about West Street is speaking just for me, I was never a fan of that site because it's a big parcel and there was no way, honest to God, hear us on this, there was no way we were going to be able to make that property work and be close to the zoned capacity target Carver has to meet, and then also meet the density. It just doesn't work. It's too big. You need a smaller property. It was why, ironically, some of the other sites we looked at were much closer to what you said you wanted, which was stay as close to, I think it's 235 as possible, and 15 units an acre. And if that's the charge, don't give us West Street, because we can't make it work.
And Spring Street was much closer to that.
It was, right?
think
It was
so.
like
Yeah, I think it was Spring Street.
14.7 acres, and it really cut the line a little close, but we could always add
Yeah.
a little more property onto that
Yeah.
to ensure proper screening and clearance from the wetlands.
It's your call. It's your decision.
Right, understood. I am looking at this project that we're talking about behind Nuria's for the 40R to check that box with MBTA.
Yep.
That's my whole thought process, and I don't know, this is the first time the board has heard about this. I don't want MBTA. I don't want that shoved down our throats. But then again, if we don't do something, this gentleman is still going to do this in North Carver. He's still going to build. So if we don't create an area, we could create an area with MBTA, and then what's going to happen is some developer could come in at some point in time and do that, and then we've checked the box with MBTA, but this guy is still going to build there. He came in with his plans, and I nicely told him to hit the road, and, it was kind of awkward, actually, sitting and talking to him, but he's not going to hold on to this land. So yeah, we could have this box checked over here for the MBTA if we do an overlay district, but he's still going full speed ahead, and that's what
hopefully with
concerns me.
commercial, which is what the town needs, because
Absolutely. And that's the
currently
reason why
there's no water
Right.
He's
available.
doing
for-
residential up there.
If
Yeah,
there's currently no water available, he can put in his own well, but he's still limited to somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 houses as a subdivision in that area currently.
I'm not so sure he's thinking about a
340
subdivision.
40B units. That's
Well, that would,
that's the plan B.
excuse me,
That's the plan B.
excuse me. That would be
You can do that.
adversarial to the town, and
Absolutely.
and the state would allow up to 200 unless the town
Right.
came through and approved for a higher number, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, because I was just
which-
going to say
which
that. There's
The
a,
town has previously stated
yeah,
that they had no interest in allowing anything over
Right.
200. So
Yeah,
I think if they stick to their guns,
yeah.
and that's how it's going to go. And
Well, I
honestly,
mean, if you're looking at 200 and then versus what I think Mr. Jermaine said, 240 plus commercial,
Right.
he doesn't have to do commercial, but if he did a 40R, he would be putting in commercial, which would benefit the town.
so,
right, if were we to do a 40R.
40R,
back
correct, yes.
Mary, I just want to be
Yes.
honest with everybody. If you have a plan that says, we're going to have commercial here, we'll have some upper story units, and then we're going to have multifamily here. There won't be something in the zoning that says you have to build the commercial. It's just providing for it. Just understand, please.
No, I would, like you said, I would prefer
You're going to have,
residential over
picture
commercial.
what the zoning's going to say. It's going to say permitted uses, multifamily dwellings, 20 units an acre. Retail, whatever, mixed-use building,
Right.
ground floor retail, ground floor food service, upper story residential. Those are permitted uses. From that menu of permitted uses, the
Right.
developer gets to choose. So I'm not discouraging you from 40R. I kind of like 40R, I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But I just want everybody to understand what you're asking for here, so that you don't feel blindsided later, because that's the last thing I want to see happen to this town.
I appreciate that.
And with 40B, I don't know what the restrictions are on units per acre in regards to that, but
There are none,
there are none.
no.
So in other words, like if I had 5 acres, I could put 50, 100 houses on it. or-
So you have a large-scale project cap that applies, so it's 200 units no matter what. until your total housing base goes over some number that I'm not even remembering right now. But, there is this cap, you correctly note.
Yeah. Well, and it's about 300 affordable houses that the town of Carver needs to meet that particular.
Is it that number? I haven't
percentage.
looked at your 40B count, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, at the most, the town could, might allow a 40B development and get the 200 houses out of it, but again, that would also be a 20% affordable requirement, and if they're rental houses, I believe that all would count towards.
If they're 25%.
If they're,
So this is another confusing thing. Don't you love these laws and how they don't align? So, under Chapter 40B, at least 25% of the units in a proposed development have to be affordable to households that are moderate income, which means an income at or below 80% of the area median, or 20% for households with incomes below 50% of the median. 40R is a maximum of 20 units, 20% affordable, and it can be 80%. So the only units that are going to count are the affordable ones.
in 40R or in 40B also?
In 40R, because 40B, you can't get there at 20% of 80% of median because they won't approve it. It's either going to be, I should do a big board on this. I should have a slide deck for you guys so I could show all this. It's either going to be 25% of the units are affordable to households at or below 80% of the area median, or 20% of the housing units affordable to people at or below 50% of the median. That's the 40B standard. Under 40R, the statute says that 20% of the units must be affordable. And affordable is defined as at or below 80% of the median. So you can have a 40R district that's creating a development, whatever the number of units, 200 units, 40 of the units are affordable at or below 80% of median. Those 40 units will count toward your subsidized housing inventory, not all 200.
Okay. Now, do rental units in general count towards affordable housing?
Oh, absolutely. But
Just
depending
not
upon
under
how many count,
40R?
yes, the 40R affordable units will count on the subsidized housing inventory. But because it will only be 20% of the units are affordable, only those affordable units are going to count,
Okay.
as opposed to the entire development. So under 40B, they'd have to have 25% affordable, and the entire project would count.
So that's the big caveat.
I'll put a memo together for you on this.
That's a big bonus for the town.
I'll put together a memo on this for you, because
No, thank you.
it's hard to throw these
That
numbers
is,
at
but
you.
we don't-
Appreciate it.
But on the 40B, the town doesn't get any benefits financially. On the 40R, the town gets.
Maybe. And
No,
that's-
no.
Well,
When she
that's-
talked about the bonus payments
Yeah, you
and
will
the
get
zoning
those.
incentives.
Connie, you will get those. You will
But
get,
that's only if it's developed above the base minimum of 20 units per acre.
no, that's just separate standards here. Under 40R, if you adopt zoning that the state has pre-approved, 20% of the units are affordable. I don't care if it's mixed use. For purposes of this conversation, it doesn't matter. State's approved what you're proposing. You go to town meeting. Hallelujah, it passes. You get a bonus, you get a zoning incentive payment at that point that's tied to the number of units that can be built in the district that couldn't have been built otherwise. Let's just say it's $100,000 for the sake of this conversation. Then if the units are built, for each one that could not have been built without that 40R district, you get a bonus payment of $3,000 per building permit per unit. Okay, so there is a fairly generous payment that comes out of this. You do not get that financial benefit from 40B, and you do not get it from the MBTA Communities Law. You get it specifically for 40R, because that's how the project,
And
that's how the
that's just a
program is.
one-time payment.
The zoning incentive payment is a one-time
Yeah.
payment. The building permit payments are as the project is under construction.
Okay, but again, that's still a one-time payment.
Yeah, it's just, yes, exactly.
And then in regards to the education bonus, you probably don't know off the top of your head what the state average is.
You
for
cannot
students.
go there. Please don't go there. I'm
Okay.
telling you,
No.
you're gonna regret it, because you're probably not going to qualify, and then your residents will be mad because they will have heard something that didn't turn out to be
Okay,
true. I'm just,
that's what I'm trying to clarify.
I
Thank you.
really wouldn't do it. It's a complicated formula. It's like, so let's say your per pupil cost, I'm just going to make up easy numbers, is $10,000 per unit. I know it's higher, per kid. I know it's higher. But the state average is $7,500 per kid. So that's the number that the state is going to use to determine, do you get a 40S payment? If the development does not generate enough property tax revenue to cover the number of kids in the project times 7,500,
right, that's a
you
big
will get a
if.
payment, no matter what you're actually paying for those kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying that
It's in,
communities really have
Right.
not gotten it. Chelsea got it for a few years and then even Chelsea fell off. So it's only Lakeville right now that's getting that 40S payment. No, and there's lots more 40R units and 40R districts out there. So I want people to understand what's probable, not what maybe.
no, thank you for that. I appreciate
Okay.
that
I think
clarification.
another highlight of checking the boxes, if you're able to do the combination of satisfying the MBTA with a 40R, if that's the route we take, is that you're eligible once you adopt something that's satisfies the MBTA zoning for a lot of grants.
That's true, yes.
And there's a lot of money only for communities that have that, and it's available for infrastructure and available for a lot of other, a wide array of
Yeah.
things that can support the town. So
Good point.
there's a strong incentive there to have the ability to, not that Carver wants to do it, but if it's something that you're checking the box, it does open up a lot of windows in terms of the possibilities for grant funding.
Okay. Thank you, Val.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So my concern is that putting a 40R there, I mean, if he's gonna go ahead and put in 300 units on that property is what the ask is, but we'll say 200 for whatever the case may be. Under the MBTA law, they wouldn't all count towards affordable housing, is that correct?
That's correct, because you can't ask for more than
So that's a big
10%.
loss. That's a big loss on meeting our goals and getting out from under the threat of 40B. We need roughly 300 houses. It would be more beneficial for the town to take in 240B houses and all of a sudden be up at close to 80+% of our required. And then with, as affordable housing, which we can never catch up with at this point. It would allow that the town would only be required to allow up to a 100 or even less of 40B to meet our, I think it's 380 required for affordable housing. So that's how I look at it. So 40B, I'm not a big fan of it on the one hand. On the other hand, it kind of checks off a really big box on meeting the affordable housing requirements and getting out of the from under the thumb of 40B. As I understand it, Middleborough's probably the closest town in the state of Massachusetts to get it. They're 10%, and they're at somewhere around 98, 99%.
So you'd be okay with this gentleman putting in a 40B project there? Not that we have any say over it, because we don't.
We don't.
We have zero say
I'm not
over it.
okay. I
but
wouldn't
they-
prefer it. I would prefer commercial development on commercial land, period.
No, I understand, but what he's trying to do is work with us, and he's not even come before us yet, so we haven't seen anything, but he's proposing to do, the units to kind of check the box in with the 40R and with the MBTA, to find some sort of balance there, but also put in commercial. So, but if he puts in a 40B, we don't have any commercial. So we don't
Right,
even know
but-
what we're
Right.
looking.
But there's no promise of commercial either under 40R.
That's right, there isn't.
That is correct, but if he comes forward with his plans and we see.
But that doesn't mean he has to build it. I
Right.
mean, we can approve the plan so that maybe sometime in the future he can build it if he wants to.
Right.
But we can't require him to build any of that, and that's,
right.
40R, and I looked into it previously, and it is promising, and 15 years ago it was more promising, but now it's an old weak carrot that doesn't really hold any hold a lot of, nutrients in it for the town. I mean, if we go under 40R and we do that and only 20% of the housing gets put towards affordable housing, well, we're still on the hook for all the rest of the infrastructure upgrades we're going to need in regards to that project. And a one-time...
We're not doing it, he's doing it.
No, but we're going to be paying for the school, the police, the fire, and all the other town services that go along with a project like that.
Regardless of what road he goes down.
Right, regardless of what road we go down. Unless he goes down 40B, then we'll at least have the bonus of the affordable housing, and we won't, with the threat of a 40B development in this town, will be severely lessened down to well under 100 for any 40B project going forward.
Would it be helpful to you if we created a matrix that shows MBTA communities, 40R, 40B?
Yes.
It would be
And then
very helpful.
show you density requirements, whatever, a variety of parameters. It might just be helpful to you to at least see how these three things come together. One thing I want to also mention to the board, because it would be remiss if I didn't say this. The possibility always exists in an MBTA communities district or a 40R district that a developer may decide to apply for a 40B comprehensive permit anyway.
Exactly.
And here's why. I do a lot of work with 40B. If the developer needs relief from your local wetlands bylaw or your local Board of Health regulations, zoning alone isn't going to fix that. And the only remedy available is Chapter 40B. So just understand that it's never just zoning, ever, in my experience, ever with 40B. I worked on a very small 40B in Brewster about 18 months ago. There was no zoning relief needed. It was all about the local wetlands bylaw. So, just understand that these things, they have different purposes. They came from at different points in time. They do have some different requirements. I can lay this out for you in a matrix, but just understand always that if for a project to go forward, the applicant needs more than different zoning. If it's any sort of waivers under other non-zoning bylaws, they may end up applying for a comprehensive permit anyway.
The other thing we have to keep in mind too is if we do look at the 40R route, there's the economic feasibility analysis that has to be done because of the 20%. If we're at 10%.
So
under MBTA is where
I have a
I'm going.
meeting with MBTA community staff, 40R staff tomorrow.
Okay.
About a different project. Let me just run this by them, because my understanding is that for MBTA communities purposes, if it's a 40R district, they will accept the 20%, but they won't accept more.
Okay.
Because they had to do something to accommodate these situations, like a Middleborough, where with some tweaks to Middleborough zoning, you had something that would work. But you can't do a 40R with 10% affordable.
Right.
So I think they created this sort of waiver for these 40Rs, but let me find out.
Cool.
I don't want to misspeak.
No.
Thank you.
I look forward to finding out that.
Yeah. I mean, you have options. Look at it this way.
Well,
You know.
unless it's the MBTA bylaw, which we do have to come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, you do. And I think as much as it sort of feels like a bitter pill, the irony of this is you're interested in pursuing, or potentially interested in pursuing a district that has a higher density requirement than MBTA communities. So you're going to have to think as a board about how you explain all this to town meeting. And fortunately, you don't have to do that right now. But you're going to have to think about how you explain, we don't like this law, but we like this one. So just be
The
processing this
combination.
conceptually.
Combination may have more synergy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. It's true.
Very good.
What would you like us to do? First of all, we can look at the property that you're referring to in the MBTA communities model. We can do that. I have this meeting with HLC tomorrow about another town, about another 40R. I can make sure we have the current version of their density model,
Mm-hmm.
and we can look at it that way, and I think we can at least give you a read. I can do that much within our existing scope. We can try that out.
That would be helpful.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we've already rough modeled the Spring Street one?
Yeah, we have. We've
So
done
I'd-
Spring Street already.
So if we could use the two of
Keep
them
that in
as
place.
a comparison for
Sure,
development.
absolutely. We can resurrect that work, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That would be helpful.
I
Yeah.
would add another property onto that to make sure. You'll notice that when you pull it up, there's a circle of properties, and you can add one more onto that to kind of flesh out the 15 acres for us.
For Spring Street, you
Yeah.
mean? Okay.
Because I think we came in at 14.7.
There's no minimum.
Yeah, for you guys,
land area.
you're a adjacent small town.
Oh, so there's not a requirement for,
There's no requirement for minimum land
Yeah.
area. If that parcel meets
Uh,
the density requirement and the
oh,
unit capacity,
okay,
then.
all right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, you have somewhat different requirements than, say, a Middleborough or a Plymouth.
Okay.
Yeah. How else can we be helpful with you tonight? You're all looking a little bit shell-shocked. I mean, I'm really sorry to drop this confusion.
I'm not sure, I'm intrigued by this.
Oh,
It
okay.
does check the boxes, it does check the boxes, which is very good. It potentially, just as a concept, it checks the boxes. As a proposed reality, as Mr. Jermaine has proposed, it puts us in, working with a developer who wants to comply and wants to work with this and wants to make this a solution. So I think I'm intrigued by it. And I think what you said about just, the matrix or whatever else you want to
Yeah.
call it, that explains how not the verses, but how these work together.
Sure.
How the MBTA and 40-hour work together. You know, maybe an ideal picture, because I mean, you know, this it's got a lot of promise. It solves a lot of problems, and
It's more encouraging anyway.
you know, Mr. Jermaine said, "The better the devil you know." I always use the analogy of the root canal. When you're gonna have a root canal, you're gonna have the root canal, and you better have it at a time and place of your choosing. You know, with the dentist you like, with the right kind of anesthesia, and a nice glass of wine afterwards. You know, it's you gotta have that root canal. You know, it's just grit your teeth and get it done. And that's we're in a
So
difficult
funny.
situation here. It's not untenable yet. Nobody's strung us up and we haven't been arrested, but it's difficult because we want to do the right thing.
Yeah, I know.
But we don't want to do the thing that we're being told to do. So, with good reason. It's not simply
One last question, Ms.
truculence on
Barrett.
our part.
Under the MBTA, 10% is required to be affordable housing.
No, you're actually not required to do any affordability.
Well, I mean,
But
we
you can do up to 10%.
Up to 10%. But out of the entirety of the project, how much is considered affordable housing towards the town requirement?
Only the affordable units.
Not all of the, even though they're rental units?
Right, because the only way all the rental units count is if at least 25% of them are affordable at or below 80% of median, or at least 20% are affordable at or below 50% of median. When we put this memo together for you, we'll put these
Yes,
numbers in it so you
okay.
can see
No,
it.
I get it now. And-
Yeah,
and-
yeah, yeah.
And so the state more or less intentionally made it unattainable by maximizing it at 10%. It's kind of locked you in so that the state really doesn't want you to reach that 10%.
So the law, the part of the problem is that the statute itself does not require any affordability. So
Right.
before we start blaming the state agency that's trying to administer this,
Well, no,
let's
no,
just
it's-
look at what the legislature
It's
did,
what was
okay?
put together, yes. It's not about who's trying to administer it, it's about what was put together, and I feel it was just a little short-sighted in that aspect of it. All right.
Sounds good.
You feel like you
Okay.
have a pretty clear plan of what we've asked?
Okay.
And,
Mr. Jermaine?
Can I just ask one more quick question?
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Judy. I think Mr. Shea is wrong. If we were to come up with the affordability number to comply, to make everybody happy, which I think is a 10% number townwide, is that about right? 10, 10 and a half,
The
something like that?
Chapter 40B standard is 10%
Yeah,
of.
okay.
Yeah.
So if we were to achieve that, it doesn't shut off future 40B. All it does is allow us, I believe, if we meet the minimum, we can take a 2-year moratorium.
No, you can turn them down after 10%.
And permanently?
Yeah, until you fall below 10%.
Which will happen eventually.
It will happen eventually.
What
But-
do you mean will happen
No,
eventually?
because eventually
the
your
town
housing stock's going
continues
to
to
grow.
Growth, yeah.
Oh, okay, and then we'll fall.
You fall.
Right,
And then we'll have another project.
Right.
that's right, that's what happens. That is the world of 40B.
Right,
Well,
and,
total
but 40B is only, so if we're required to have, let's say, 400 to make it easy, and we have, all of a sudden, we have 4,001 houses, then all of a sudden,
The number-
0.1 is eligible for 40B, but they can't come in and say, we're gonna build 240B. They can come in and say, we can build one.
No,
and-
sir, no, sir, no.
If
I
you're
need you to
down by
spell this, no.
less than 1%.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
We'll get your
No.
memorandum.
No, no, because actually, there's real stories, very sad stories in my long career in this business. If you are below the 10% minimum, which is 10% of your year-round housing units, if the proponent says, I need 200 units to make this project feasible, even though you're only shy of 10% by 10 units,
Yeah, doesn't matter.
they can apply for those 200 units, and you would be, in the same position you're in if you had only 5% of your housing on the subsidized housing inventory.
Okay.
Because the applicant is asserting, I need this number of units to make my project feasible.
So it's an unattainable goal.
No, it's not on a table. We have a lot of towns that are over 10%. A lot of towns in
It's just-
Massachusetts that are over
it's not easy
10%.
To
I think it's
get more-
unattainable to maintain.
Well, yeah, but I mean, unless you have a super high growth spurt, you don't fall below that 10%.
Yeah.
If you have enough of a buffer, I mean, that's part of the problem. I worked with Brookline, which is a much bigger town than you guys. They had 17 comprehensive permits in like 7 years. I felt like I lived at Brookline Town Hall. What that board went through was brutal.
That's a lot.
And they, for all the units they've approved, they still hover up and down relative to 10%. Because if the projects aren't under construction within a year after the comprehensive permit's been issued, those units which have been added to the subsidized housing inventory now come off. So poor Brookline, is just a subject to the whims of the developers who can't get these projects moving. It's hard.
To Mr. Jermaine, is it Jermaine?
Yes.
Just to Mr. Jermaine's point, you're referring to Safe Harbor, where
yeah.
if we were to construct so many units within 1 year or 2 years or 6 months, depending on the math,
Yeah.
we can get a temporary safe harbor, which is
Yeah.
what you were referring to.
Yeah,
and
you're
that
right,
is
Val.
part of the 40B.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's true. Even if you're below 10%, you get a so-called safe harbor. But it's temporary, right? So, different legislatures at different times with different objectives are writing different laws. And that's the deck we've been dealt as cities and towns, so.
I have to say, there aren't very many consultants that sit in the driver's seat the way that you in particular.
It's my old age, Val, that's all. It's just my old age.
Your expertise is really germane to what Carver's up to, and I personally really appreciate that we have you working with us.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're here too, believe me, so. All right, we'll take a look. We'll get the 40R model tomorrow, and we'll take a look at it. I can kind of walk you through. It's actually very similar in some ways. And we can get back to you. But meanwhile, I'll get you a memo with the matrix and all these numbers that are just going to make you blind. But at least if they're on paper, you can kind of look at them and say, all right, if I study this hard enough, next time we come back, we'll quiz you.
Perfect.
All right?
Thank you both. Lily.
Thank you so much.
very much.
Judy,
All right,
thank you.
take care. No, it's all right. Lots.
Next on the agenda this evening, we have a public hearing that has been continued for Wareham Street Solar 2 LLC, requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to Section 290-3-1, 290-3-6, 290-5-3, and 290-4-3 of the Carver zoning bylaw located off Wareham Street in Carver, Mass. Assesses map 134, lots 4-2A, 4-2B, and 4-3 in the residential agricultural zoning district This project consists of a large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic system with coupled battery energy storage system. This applicant has requested a continuance to the January 27th, 2026 meeting. I have a question for the board before we make a motion.
I would not put it on January 27th. January 27th is chock full. And four-hour planning board meetings can really wear on a person's nerves.
You know, Mr. Shea, I would probably agree with you on that one because we haven't even gone out on this.
Because February 10th is wide open and there's nobody, so.
Yeah, we haven't been to the site yet, right?
No, we haven't, and we were going to discuss that. I have notes to discuss that walkthrough. So,
If I was to make a motion, I would make a motion to continue the public hearing for Wareham Street Solar 2 LLC to February 10th, 2026 at 7 PM, Carver Town Hall, Room 1.
Second. Or you made-
Second?
He made the motion, right?
Yes, he
Okay,
did.
So second, yeah.
You made the motion, yes?
Okay, second.
You second.
Oh, so, aye.
Aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sedillo says
Mr.
aye.
Shea says aye.
Marilyn Williams says aye. Very good.
And we need to still sort out a site walk with that particular project?
We do. Do you want to do that at the end? Or do you want to discuss it now? It's up to everyone. And now we have a little bit of time, so.
Well, I don't want to hold up Mr. Benson, so I.
Okay,
can we-
so I'll read the next
Yeah.
public hearing, which has been continued on Tremont Street Solar 1 LLC, requesting a special permit and site plan review, 73 Tremont Street in Carver, Mass. Assesses map 121, lot 4-0, in the residential agricultural RE zoning district to construct solar floating dual-use canal canopy and ground-mounted solar arrays with associated ESS. This applicant has requested a continuance to the January 27th, 2026 meeting.
If it's acceptable, I would make a motion to continue the Tremont Street Solar 1 LLC to February 10th, 2026, 7 PM, Carver Town Hall, Room 1.
And I'll second that.
Aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Ellen Sedillo says aye.
Mary Ellen Williams says aye. All right,
And we've already done the site walk there, so we should be
Yes.
all set with that.
that one is all set. Very good. Next, we have other business. We have David Baston, 15 Pleasant Street, assesses map 29-9-B-1, is requesting a waiver of the special permit filing fee for future filing.
I'm sorry I mispronounced your name, Mr.
okay.
Baston.
You're not the first,
It was
actually,
the
so.
quick glance down, so.
Okay. Well, first, thank you very much I know you added me to the agenda late. Thank you for your help. I know I slid in home plate a little bit late on this, but that's kind of the way this process has gone. So I'll keep this as quick and uncomplicated as possible. I'm here asking for relief of those fees. We started a process to get a permit to put an ADU on our house for my in-laws almost a year ago, and have gone through building commissioner, zoning board of appeals 3 times, legal, town selectmen, like for a whole number of different issues where sort of every time I got referred to one place, that they referred me to someplace else, to someplace else, to someplace else. So the amount of time that we've put into this year-long process to finally get to you to submit a special permit for this ADU has been substantial. So Rod Palmer had recommended that I come before you and ask for relief of the fee to file for that special permit, which we plan to do, hopefully by your next meeting. So
I did read your letter, and I fully understand it. And aside from the public hearing notice that that has to be paid for to put in the newspaper, and the mailing to the abutters, I would be in favor of waiving the fees, just not out-of-pocket fees that we would otherwise have to cover, because our budget is pretty tight as it is.
I appreciate that. I feel badly that you've gone through all this. I really do.
I believe you, so.
And, you know, from the town perspective and also for what you've been dealing with your personal life, I feel that if we make an exception to waive this filing fee, it sets a bad precedent because everyone has to pay it that comes forward. I would like to do that for you, but I just don't know if it's fair to everyone that comes in front of the planning board or, you know, makes submission for a special permit.
And I certainly understand that. And had this process, I think, gone the way that I expected it to, I wouldn't be here, you know, like,
Right.
but having been sort of referred and bounced and moved, and the dynamic that it's caused in our home over the last year, like, it's been something. It's worth me being here and try to explain that to you. I suspect that as you move forward, and I know that there's some novelty here. I know that the special permit for a second ADU is a new thing. I know that, but I feel like I haven't even really gotten to that point yet, right? Like we've been through zoning board 3 times and waiting on legal, and I understand that their meeting's only once a month, and so these things take time, but I feel like my communication has been relatively one-sided to this point, where I've communicated with the town for what I needed, but there was very little communication back unless I facilitated further. And so therein lies my frustration. So that I'm assuming that not every application will go like that, right? So I hope certainly not every application will go like that. So I'm just hoping that you would consider it in this particular case because of the exceptional pathway that this has taken, that's all, so.
See, the only reason I recommended that is because he has already been through the review through the various agencies inside the town, which normally our filing fee covers a portion of that, not the entirety. I mean, it's an expensive process, and but that was the only reason I recommended that we cut it down to the mailing and the notice fees that would come out of pocket.
I'd also note that regarding it as an exception, the exception really doesn't create a strong precedent. It's a weak precedent because it is an exception from the norm. And the exception is designed for exceptional cases. And this is, I think back to my experience trying to build a house in this town, this is pretty exceptional.
How many times were you in front of the ZBA?
3 times, yeah, so.
Just a note, that's all.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's any of us here that feel badly, and honestly, I'm embarrassed
Yeah,
that
so
this has happened to you.
And I understand this has nothing to do with any of you, like, and I appreciate you even hearing me on this
Actually,
situation.
we passed the ADU law last year, and you kind of fell right into that little crevasse.
Yeah,
that-
right, correct.
That created, so.
And I understand that, you know, I do, and I understand that these things take time, that it's a process, and I'm willing to work with the process, and I'm willing to cooperate, but this has been really something. And I hope that in some respects it sets some sort of example of how not to move forward on this with people who are trying to take care of their aging parents or do, which is exactly what we're trying to do. And I hope that this, to some degree, you know, can be used as a learning tool to streamline that process a little bit, because this is, I mean, we've had to, you know, we have one small ADU on now that my mom typically winters in because she can't spend winters alone where she lives. The weather's too severe without my dad there. But we've moved my in-laws in, so my mom's been sort of extricated, you know, like, so for the last 2 winters. And she's not getting younger, and so it's just been a bit of a strain. So I hope that won't be the case sort of moving forward. I suspect that it won't. But I think mine is an exceptional case, and I understand for a host of reasons why it's been that way. But there's also been a number of things that could have been done better by the town to shorten this process, and none of those were done.
I would agree.
That's my biggest issue. So.
Any other comments?
Make an exception.
I think we need to vote on this and make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion if it's
Mhm.
acceptable. That we waive all not out-of-pocket fees, which would include advertising in the paper and the mailing and any other direct fees that we otherwise might occur in regards to this.
And I'd second that.
Mr. Lake?
I'll say aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Ellen Sedillo says aye.
Mary Ellen Williams says aye.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. The next step then is I will next week be submitting an application for this special permit for this ADU.
It will be, yep, a special permit.
Yep, and so I assume I'll be back before you at some point after that. Do I need to do anything specific with regard to submitting those fees at this point? Do I need a paper from you that says that these fees have
No,
been
our
waived?
town planner's here, and
Okay.
you will be discussing your special permit with her to make sure everything's in order.
Perfect.
She's very good.
She
so-
was
and
very
I think
helpful the
she
other
got-
day when I was
she
here.
got
I appreciate it
the gist
very much,
of
so.
where we're going with this, so I
Great.
think you'll be in good hands.
Great, I couldn't be happier then. I appreciate your time. Thanks very much. All right. Have a nice
Sorry about
night.
everything.
That's okay, thanks.
Okay. Now, if we have any notes? Valerie, would you like? If we don't have any as the board, do you have anything?
Just that we are coordinating with Middleborough at the request of the applicant. We had that discussion at the
Yes.
open public hearing for Fullerstone Street Solar, and we're working with Middleborough to cross-pollinate in terms of having the same peer reviewer and having our peers within the two town halls talk to each other so that the conditions will echo each other rather than conflict. And hopefully we'll also be doing some inspections together if the permit is approved and if the project is constructed, the conditions that we put on it would be similar so that the project itself would be more successful.
Okay, very good.
We haven't had a sidewalk on this.
We did.
correct? You did have it.
Yes.
You did have it.
It was a long one,
Yeah.
Ellen.
Yeah.
Ellen. She bucked up and did the
Yeah.
whole
It's
thing.
Yeah.
a very muddy
We
one.
did that at 2 o'clock, and then we had one at 3 o'clock. But, and then one question for the board. I had discussed this with Valerie earlier, and I checked with Area 58. I don't know what anyone's thoughts are. I was concerned about the next meeting that we had coming up, but that doesn't seem to be an issue now so much with me. But I think, Mr. Maynard, you might have a problem with this. Would you ever be available for a 6 p.m. meeting during the winter months?
Under duress.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, now the agenda's looking a little bit lighter,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't, but I don't know what everyone's thoughts are on that. And I know not the springtime, Mr. Robinson, but I didn't know in the winter months.
Yeah, we'll do it.
I'm over
Yeah.
the associate, Madam Chair. You can't revolve everything around me, you know.
No, but your attendance is very important, so we appreciate it.
I keep getting told that, so. Feeds my ego.
Good to know, but I was going to initially request it if the agenda was looking as heavy as it was when the meeting started, but now it's looking a little bit better. So that's good to know. Now we can move on to the minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of October 7th, 2025,
I think I have a,
with possible edits.
yes. I was okay with these, except my name is just missing an S at the top. But otherwise, the minutes look fine to me. So this motion is to approve with edits?
Yep.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good.
I haven't read them, so I'll abstain, sorry.
Okay.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Ellen Sedillo says aye.
Mary Lynn Williams says aye.
And I will make a motion to approve the minutes of October 14th, 2025 with any edits.
I think I have some edits. Again, my name needs an S at the top. I don't think this meeting started at 5:30. I think maybe this was just copied over from the October 7th one that started at 5:30.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And so this one should have started at 7. And then the motion that's made under Ricketts Pond,
Yes.
it has me
Oh,
taking a roll call and voting on it.
well, there was that and, no, you're right, yep.
Yep, so that needs to be completely changed. And other than that, they look good to me. So Mr. Shea made the motion to approve with edits. Those were my edits.
I'll second that.
Second that?
Abstain again.
Abstain, okay.
I was absent.
You were absent.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Ellen Sedillo says aye.
Mary Ellen Williams says aye. Very good.
Motion to adjourn?
Please.
Second.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Ellen Sedillo says aye.
Mary Ellen Williams says aye. Thank you. Have a good evening.